friends, my name is Emily and welcome back to my channel. Last week I filmed a lot of content, but it was all very heavy content and I ended up in like a really dark place. Editing those videos puts me in an equally dark place because I have to relive myself talking about these things. As a result, nothing went on the internet. Like, I made like a rough cut through the video. That was it. I couldn't bring myself to go back. I thought I would go through and comment on my comments because I have to do that anyway. I have been, throughout the 2 months of quarantine, I've been making a lot of content, but I haven't been going back to respond to comments. Let's do it. 2 months worth of comments. On the Red Rum Book Club Fireman promo video, I said that I hadn't read it. 2 people have sort of spoiled it. Thank you. So this is kind of interesting. It's a video from a while ago, from last April, Veda, when I kind of rant reviewed Jane Eyre. So Alicia has also just read Jane Eyre for the first time and she agrees that it's not a romance story, that it's a horror story, and that Rochester is a creep. And she has some thoughts about Jane being a strong female character, which I can't remember my thoughts on Jane herself. Like, what stands out now, more than a year later, is that it definitely feels like the outline and the foundation of a lot of horror books about abusive relationships. I keep meaning to, but there is a Jane Eyre retelling, or like playing with, of that story from Bertha's perspective. I should probably add it to my library holds list and see if I can get in on that, because I think it would be a much more interesting story. Like, I think people playing with this classic piece of literature, going back to it now, has to be more interesting. So thank you, Alicia, for reminding me that I am interested in Bertha's story. Okay, so I have a comment here on Lumos episode 12 for Goblet of Fire. It's from Ultimate Kyubi Fox, and they say, "What's interesting to me about Harry's perspective on Dobby's gift is in a way related to how he views the wizarding world. Dobby has knitted Harry socks for Christmas." And I commented on that, like, Harry's ungratefulness for this, like, handmade gift from Dobby. They continue, "Harry seems to love the wizarding world so much due to it being his safe haven, that he wants to be of it. He accepts its culture at face value so long as he was introduced to said parts of it early. If the elves don't want freedom, he seems keen to leave them to it. And if Dobby wants to care deeply for him, he seems nearly fearful of it. It's almost as if he frees Dobby because he hates Malfoy more than because he likes Dobby. Which does feel strange, as Harry should understand better than anyone the experience of being isolated and abused only to come into wealth. If Harry wasn't charismatic, he'd be just like Dobby." And you know what? I feel like that's an interesting point, that Harry and Dobby are in like very similar situations at the beginning of their novels, that they are both powerless to their abusers, right? Harry is under the authority of the Dursleys and Dobby is under the authority of the Malfoys. Both of them find this freedom in the wizarding world, in the larger wizarding world, and being outside of their culture. So Harry grew up a Muggle and finds freedom outside of Muggle culture. Dobby grew up an enslaved house elf and finds freedom outside of that culture. Ultimate QB Fox goes on to mention that they almost see Harry and Dobby as parallels of each other. I think that's interesting. I think that's a really interesting point. Thank you for pointing that out. Oh, the Stephen King community. It brings out the best in people. You know those like text conversations that you see where people have like in their dating app? I have a series of those on my unread Stephen King books, and it's just like, I think each of these are supposed to read like some sort of innuendo, but they make no sense. Like, they actually make no sense. None of this is like truly horrible, it's just hilariously bad, so I'm not going to mute this human. They get one more chance. If they do anything really gross, then we kick him. That has become my new policy, because just a whole host of ugliness has been rolling in with the Stephen King videos. I guess there are a lot of bored older American men that find themselves with time on their hands to watch YouTube videos during quarantine, and wow, I have woken up to some ugliness. I think we're gonna end with a Harry Potter comment because I think this is actually really interesting. So on the Lumos episode 11, Grief and Prisoner of Azkaban and the Book Thief, I talked about how I felt that Harry was using the Patronus to repress his grief and trauma, so to repress his traumatic memories. And Paula has an opposite reading that I think is really interesting and worth sharing. So she says, I think that Harry actually learns to deal with the trauma in this book because in order to deal with the Dementors, he has to access happy memories, most of them his family. When he thinks he saw his father at the lake, he can produce a very powerful Patronus. In my opinion, he chooses to accept his trauma and not let it attack him the way it did before, through the Patronus. Meaning uncontrollably through the Dementor's attack and the subsequent fainting. For her, the Patronus is a symbol of him dealing with trauma without being overcome with the negative memories. And I think that's a really interesting reading and like a very fair reading of the situation as well. So thank you, Paula, for sharing that. I appreciate that. I have been commenting on this for an hour and I feel like there's only so much that you can do because in between all of the really engaged comments, like I said, the old American men of the internet have discovered the internet, I guess, in quarantine, and there's a lot of just shit on the Stephen King videos. I dealt with a lot of the really violent stuff as it came in, and I left a lot of the more benign, but I still have to read through the benign stuff as I do this, so, you know. I don't know if it just picked up, but my tummy is rumbling. It is time for lunch. So that's where I'm gonna end this video, commenting on comments. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I have been watching Evan Ettinger's community videos. So he has a like specific topic video, and then during the week, he sort of responds to the comments, and I've been really enjoying that. And I do think it's a nice way to highlight some of the really engaged comments. So if this is something that you enjoy seeing, let me know. So this video is made possible by my patrons. Thank you, patrons, for making videos like this possible. One of the perks right now of being a patron is that we are going to be reading The Fireman by Joe Hill together through the rest of this month and all through June. On June 26th, which is a Friday, there will be a live stream to discuss this book with my patrons. So if you are interested in a little apocalyptic fantasy plague reading, you can visit my Patreon page, join at any tier, and have access to the Discord as well as that live stream at the end of June. Thank you, patrons. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.